Hopefully you can hear that. Okay, good. It looks like everybody's able to hear that pretty good, which is awesome. Hey, I'm Steve Stein from Guitar Zoom, and thank you so much for joining me today. Today what I'm going to be doing is talking about some things that might help you with your soloing, whether it's blues soloing or rock soloing or even country and pop soloing, although we're focusing primarily on the blues and the rock elements of guitar soloing, kind of because that's where I live, okay? So the first thing I want you to think about when learning how to play really cool blues solos, the first thing is finding the right licks for you. Okay? Now, you can go on YouTube and you can go wherever, and I even have guitar courses including all about blues licks that talk about blues licks. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to buy like this one, this guitar course, again, has like 50 of them. It's not that you're going to use and memorize 50 of these guitar licks, and that really isn't even the point. The point, there's 2 points. Number one is the experience that the licks give you, the insight that they give you. Okay, so if you started with just a plain old guitar lick, for instance, if I went like this. It's just a walk down of a guitar lick. Okay, now if you took that guitar lick right there and you started thinking a little bit more about the rhythm that you're playing over. For instance, is the rhythm a shuffle? Is the rhythm a straight rhythm or a swing rhythm? What is the rhythm? And again, we talk about this in the course, right? So if it's got a shuffle rhythm, then we learn how to adjust that lick or there's so many different ways that we can embellish a guitar lick. And everything that you know at this point, if you know some licks or you've got some ideas of the way that you move around, I want you to really start becoming aware that the rhythm that you're playing over can really, really affect your approach on the way that you're going to play over something. Okay? Let's also think of this, repetition, right? If we find a lick that we really like, but we need to kind of edit it a little bit to make more sense to us, maybe we take this idea, or we're playing it straight, whatever it is we want to do, but let's add some authentic vocal kind of techniques to this lick, okay? So let's say we took this thing right here, and what we're going to do is we're going to bend on the 7th fret of the 3rd string. So I'm going 5, 8, 5, 7, 5, 7. That's what my lick is doing. Okay, and that should be in your PDF or your handout, okay? Now what I'm going to do is when I get to that 7 on the 3rd string, I'm going to add that bend to it. So if you've got your guitar handy, don't worry about how fast it is. What you would do is take this idea and you would practice it and develop it so it sounds good and it feels good. Don't make your talent level in your mind, don't base your talent level on how fast you can do something. As guitar players, we're always thinking, well, things have to be fast. We have to learn how to play fast, or we have to learn to play something fast, right? I started working on this lick. I got to learn it in the next 10 minutes because 10 minutes from now, I got to be learning something else. Slow down, okay? You got to slow down. You got to have fun with this stuff. You have got to learn to listen, and you have got to learn to feel what you are playing. Okay? I always try and tell people, imagine that it's not just about that you're playing. It's not just that you're playing. It's how you're playing. It's how your playing sounds. Okay? Oftentimes when we're jamming over a track, whether it's the 12-bar blues or a rock riff or whatever it might be, we're really not synchronizing with the jam track or the rhythm that's happening underneath us. We're actually kind of playing over it, and we're not really aware of what's happening with that music underneath us. Blues, it's very important we understand that we have 3 primary chords that we tend to play over in blues. 12-bar blues, which again, we talk about all that kind of stuff in the guitar course. But you're dealing with a 1, a 4, and a 5 chord, okay? And you eventually will be able to take this and masterfully think about, well, over this 1 chord, what am I going to do? Over this 4 chord, what am I going to do? Over this 5 chord. So when you play, everything that you play winds up sounding right. It sounds authentic. It sounds real when people hear you, right? So as I'm doing this lick, the first thing is choosing a lick that seems like it's going to work for me. Okay? And the second thing is as I'm practicing this lick, morphing this lick to fit what the rhythm is doing. What key is the song in? What rhythm do I need? Is it straight or is it a shuffle? What am I doing here? Okay? And then I'm going to tweak that lick a little bit to make it more of something that makes sense to me. Now you'll notice right there, I did a bend on the same spot, but I did a different kind of bend. Okay? I did what I like to refer to as a dip bend. I bent it up, I brought it back down, and I bent it back up again. The more I can play these things and make it make sense in my head and make it make sense in my hands, the more I can connect with the music I'm playing with, and ultimately the more confidence I'm going to have. So when people listen to me play, then when people listen to you play, it's going to sound right. Okay? You're not fishing for things, you're doing the right thing. Okay? Now, if that makes sense, you've got this lick that you can practice and you can do various things with it, okay? It's just a simple drop lick, but we're first looking at how we can change it rhythmically. And then we're looking at how we can tweak it a little bit by adding other things in. You'll notice I'm using vibrato and different kinds of bends, all these things. So please stop trying to run to the finish line when it comes to guitar playing. Please don't do that, okay? You got to change your train of thought. You know, I've taught, thousands of guitar players, tens of thousands of guitar players across the world about guitar playing. And I think the number one thing I find is that everybody is in such a hurry, even if they don't realize it, even if they're not thinking about it that way. Now, I'm not saying that you might not have ambitions to play faster, or you might not want to work on your technique, and God bless you, I get it. I work on all those things too. That's not the fastness I'm talking about. What I'm saying is we're always in a hurry to get something done so we can start something else and be in a hurry to get something done so we can start something else and be in a hurry to get something done. Don't do that, okay? I don't care if you want to play fast or slow or rock or blues or metal or jazz. I don't care what it is you want to play. That's all up to you. What I'm saying is when you play, the more in tune you can get with that rhythm, the cooler it's going to sound. I want to show you something here. I've got a jam track here. I got a bunch of jam tracks that come with the course, but I'm going to play this one for you. I'm going to show you real quick here. This is a shuffle, and I want you to hear. So when I go to play that lick, play it another way. See how I return back and forth? Okay, now listen to this rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. This is a straight rhythm, so I'm going to approach that lick differently. I've got to have control of my instrument, of my guitar, at that speed, with that groove, whether it's a shuffle or a straight or whatever, okay? So some licks that you're going to try are going to make more sense to you. They're going to be more useful in your world. Some licks that you try, you're going to go, wow, that one doesn't really make as much sense to me. And the beautiful thing is because you wind up, owning the guitar courses or whatever, you can always come back 6 months later and grab more information and use it. Or a year from now, when your playing has vastly, elevated to another level, and you can go back and you can find more stuff that you can use, okay? So finding the right guitar licks for you, okay, not for anybody else, but what makes sense for you, where you are in your guitar journey right now is really, really important, okay? That's why I always like to build things, like when I make guitar courses, like to build things that start at the beginning and then they just sort of pyramid out towards the bottom. So you can start small and start exploring ideas, and then as you keep going, it keeps building. And my whole philosophy has always been, I'm not interested in trying to teach you a bunch of things that you can't use. It's always about converting what you're learning into the real world. Okay? So when you play in front of people or you play with people or whatever it might be, you feel good. You feel confident. That's the most important thing. And believe me, it can happen for everybody, for me, for you, for anybody, okay? So the second thing I want to talk about is control and execution, which is the details, reading between the lines, okay? Now, you have probably done bending before and vibrato, and you probably know a couple of licks or something like that. What I want you to always think about, it's the execution of these various techniques that make something sound authentic, that make them sound real. Okay? It's really important. It's not just, again, it's not just that you're doing it. It's how you are doing it and how it sounds. I can't stress that enough. So most of the licks that you learn, like in this guitar course, they have licks, or excuse me, they have bending or vibrato or hammer-ons or pull-offs and all those kind of things, and they're all explained in detail of what makes them unique and how to do them, because they're also vastly different. And here's my point. If I go to play on my guitar, and I'm going to play whatever it is, I'm going to do a bend, for instance. And I'm going to do a vibrato like that, right? The goal is that I've got to be, first of all, it's got to be in tune. It's got to sound right when I play it, right? I've got to have control of whatever it is I'm trying to play, whether it's a lick or an idea or pattern or whatever it could be. I've got to have control of that situation. And the only way to earn that control is to practice it and to be intuitive. Be aware of it. Think about how it feels. Think about how it sounds. And you see, this is where you slow down, because it's not just a matter of doing it. Well, Steve said I'm supposed to do bends. It's not that at all. It ain't about me anyway. It's about you, okay? So when you do those bends, and that vibrato and all those things, it just oozes vocal ability, and you can just hear it. That's what you're looking for, okay? So it's very important that you try and focus on the control that you've got on your fretboard and the execution of these various techniques. So if you come across a guitar lick, for instance, that has a bend in it, don't just play it and then breeze by that bend. You might actually think about that bend a little bit and extract that idea and just practice that bend for a while and then put it back into the guitar lick and practice the whole thing. Or your picking technique, the execution of your ability to pick, right? If I'm doing this, let me rewind this in. So if I do something like this, my ability to pick through this if I walk up, whatever it might be. Now, I'm not going to play like that all the time, but it's nice to be able to have the control to be able to pick through when I want to and then go back to one of the guitar licks. I could go back to the first guitar lick that I played, right? Maybe I build into it with my technique of picking. You see? It's all about control. So people will often say, and maybe you've heard this too, but they'll say, wow, it doesn't seem like you put any effort in when you play, or it looks like you're not even trying. That's because eventually you get to the point where you're not even trying. Because you've experienced these things. You're listening, you're thinking, you're feeling, and you're executing these ideas. So the second thing I want you to really think about whenever you're practicing is the control that you have and how your execution sounds when you play. Okay? Okay? And again, if you're being inspired and you've got some ideas and you know what you're supposed to be doing here, give me a yes. Please give me a yes and let me know that it's making sense to you, okay? Please understand that education, guitar education, isn't always about, me showing you 700 things. It's me showing you a couple of things that you can really kind of internalize and figure out how you're going to use them on the fretboard, okay? No hurry. That is not what we're looking for. But in saying that, the third tip that I want to give you in playing a great blues solo is some notes that you can add in that make a really, really big difference in your playing. So if you're used to just playing like minor pentatonic all the time, there's some notes that you really want to learn about. And again, we talk about them in the guitar course, but you want to learn how to use those in your playing. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to show you this on the, we will go with the top 4 strings. Okay, so we're going to use 4th string, 3rd string, 2nd string, and 1st string. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to morph this minor pentatonic into something vastly different by combining both major and minor pentatonic together. Now, I'm not going to get into detail why or how or that sort of thing right now, but I do go into that in the guitar course. And but I want to show you what it looks like. So instead of just playing 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8, like that, like we normally would, I mean, it's a great scale. Minor pentatonic's an awesome scale. But watch how cool this sounds if I change some of the notes by adding some major pentatonic notes into my minor pentatonic scale. Okay? So here's what's going to happen is on the 4th string, I want you to play 4-7. On the 3rd string, I want you to play 5-6. On the 2nd string, I want you to play 5-7. And the 1st string is going to be 5-8. So if I put those 4 strings together, it sounds like this. Now let me play it with a shuffle so you can hear what this sounds like. There's a true element of authentic blues when you start learning how to combine both your major and your minor pentatonic together. Now, again, where people get confused is they start thinking, well, I've got this minor pentatonic and now I've got all these other notes that I'm going to play. And the problem is you start trying to mush all this together and you just wind up with a hodgepodge of notes. The trick is in the phrasing. The trick is using certain notes with other notes at certain times. At any time, I can go back into minor pentatonic. Anytime. But sometimes what I want to do in my mind is I want to step out of minor pentatonic and try some of these other notes. So let's say I walk down from the first guitar lick that we had, just this dissension lick, this thing. Right, I wound up on that 7, just back to that same lick. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk back towards the floor, the thin strings here, using this new kind of shape that I've created. So watch this. I'm going to go like this. So I went. Now what I did was I just walked down with the first lick that we learned how to play. And then I'm going to walk back doing 5-6. I'm doing it as a hammer on. And then 5-7. And then 8. 5-8, excuse me. So it looks like this. And see how drastically different that sounds? That's the color that you're looking for. If you just play the same minor pentatonic over and over and over, even if you're learning different licks, after a while everything kind of sounds the same. So if you think about it, now what I'm doing is I'm talking about that tip number 1 I told you about, which is finding the right licks and learning how to tweak them a little bit to make them something that makes sense to you and sounds creative to you, gives you confidence, and sounds good to your listener. So I'm coming down minor pentatonic. You see? Now let me do that over a jam track so you can hear it again in the real world. So I'm going to go back here. Here we go. Change the rhythm. And I'm not doing that intentionally, it just kind of happens. After a while, I can see the pattern that I want or the lick that I want, and then I tweak it a little bit to become something a little bit different. Okay? So they're really, really sweet sounding notes that you can add into your solo by just shifting your pentatonic or your perception of how you're seeing something, or the perception of how you're approaching something. You can change that a little bit to make it something even more interesting to you as a player and to your listener, because it's colorful. It's not the same thing over and over and over. Okay? So hopefully these 3 tips can help you a little bit on your guitar journey of trying to just expand a little bit outside where you are already. Okay? I'm always encouraging people, shoot for the moon. Please do. Okay? But tomorrow, let's try and make you just a little bit better than you were today. That's the most important thing. Okay? Consistency. Daily consistency. That's what we're looking for. So we're looking for some of what I like to refer to as the small wins, right? We're looking for a small win. We want to make something a little different. So tomorrow you go, wow, that's cool. I never thought I could do that. Okay? Yes, you woke up thinking, I want to be so-and-so, right? I want to be Joe Bonamassa. I want to be Eddie Van Halen. I want to be, James Taylor, whatever it might be. But you went to bed going, I learned something new that really changed the way I think about playing. And not only that, but I changed the way it sounds. I changed the way it feels to me. That's what's really important. And that's always, always my goal. Okay?